Live from Carborough, it's the Chris or Jenny Show featuring Deej and starring Vimala Rajendran on WCOM LP Chapel Hill and Carborough.
Good evening, friends.
Good evening, enemies, friendos.
We have none.
We have no enemies in this room.
That's how you want to roll.
Especially with the wonderful guest that we have tonight.
Who do we have?
Well, Deej, if you've lived in Chapel Hill or Carborough in the last 10 years...
Well, way more, I think.
This woman's name is synonymous with deliciousness, Deej. Delicious food, a wonderful atmosphere, and I know it's so much more. So let's just get right to the guest. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have the one and only Vimala.
Woo! Thank you.
Vimala, welcome.
Thank you for having me on the Chris or Jenny Show.
And it's not that I can't say your last name. It's that I don't think you even need a last. Like you to me, you've reached like Cher status or Madonna or Pele.
It's because you can't say it.
That Rajendran.
Rajendran.
That's what I said.
Well,
Rajendran.
I will audio scribe this because this is radio and not television.
Yes.
I'm rolling my eyes.
So how long has Vimala's been open?
Almost 13 years. 13 years this May.
Wow.
So 12 and a half years.
Vimala, welcome. We are a huge fan of you and your food. In fact, my family dined on Vimala's tonight in honor of you coming in here. My wife says your doll is the best in the area, even better than Weaver Street Market. Thoughts?
Thank you. Every dish has a story.
Yeah.
So that dal, I picked up that recipe from a dear friend in Canada who was so amazing. She had a full-time job, but every time she invited me over, she had a 7-course meal. And this dal featured on her menu every single time. And I was like, why this dal and why do you make it? So she explained to me there are 2 different split lentils in there.
Really?
Yellow split peas and masoor dal, which is red lentils.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to explain the reason why the red lentils cook fast and they break down, they become the background of the split yellow peas.
Oh, my goodness.
Which then remain and have a little texture.
Yeah.
And turmeric, and the rest is history.
Dr. J loves Vimala's curry. My whole family loves Vimala's Curry Blossom
What's
Cafe.
not to love?
We've eaten there 1,000 times. How about you?
I've eaten there probably well over 20 times. I'd say 20-something times.
Yes, synonymous with deliciousness.
Yes.
But we did have a theory that maybe you provided the doll to Weaver Street, but that's not the case.
Oh, no. People often mistake me for someone else.
Yeah.
It must be because all Indians look alike.
Oh, no.
No.
And no, I have not supplied any food to Weaver Street. Weaver Street Market and I have a very beautiful, I just trust Weaver Street so much that whatever background work they have done to avoid GMO, food color, additives of any kind, preservatives, it's done for me. So I can walk in there and buy any ingredient. So, my name gets written on a clipboard if I'm buying for the restaurant. Folks ask me for the owner number. I have a very early owner number. I've been living in this beautiful town. Let's call them the twin towns, Scarborough, Chapel Hill, for 37 years now.
Wow.
I like to call it Chapel Borough.
Okay, yes.
Chapel and Borough.
I call it Car Hill.
But
that's just me.
My owner number is in the 20,000s, which is higher than yours. But now, if you go there today, it's like 40,000. So I've been here about 10 years.
Yes.
But you're right, though, as far as the Weaver Street Market, and you, Vimala's Curry Blossom Cafe, are both, in my opinion, pillars of the community, examples of businesses that are doing things the right way, and also being delicious in the process.
Oh,
so we really are. I'm not going to spend an hour heaping praise on you, but I want you to know I'm a huge fan.
Please. But you can heap praise on Weaver Street Market because, after all, we are in Scarborough and it's the meeting place.
That's right. Carborough's front yard, Deej, is what I call it.
Yes.
So I'm interested in how you picked the spot for Vimala's. It's you just kind of go there and it's like a sensation. It's an experience. What's the story behind the venue?
So the venue itself, I really didn't pick it. I think the spot picked me.
Okay.
So that spot was a part of a dairy farm long ago, and where our bar is today was the first desegregated ice cream shop in the city.
Wow.
In the town of Chapel Hill. So there's that. And
that's incredible.
We believe in restoration of lost things. I don't dwell so much in the past, but so much so that I feel like we have been placed there to be bridge builders between the north side, which is right across the way. You cross the road, and then there is a jogging that happens because Rosemary Street and Franklin Street had to be separated. So North Robertson won't run straight into South Robertson, but we are on South Robertson, and then you jog a little and you get to North Robertson in the north side. So there we are in a very strategic, historically important, valuable space.
That's beautiful.
How that came about was that used to be a French bakery when I first came into this town, and a dear friend of mine worked there as a baker, and behind that was the unforgettable Pie Wacket restaurant, which was the first pescatarian restaurant in this area after another time, which is from long gone. However, so the courtyard came into existence over time as a commercial area with retail businesses, restaurants, bakeries, and the upstairs had architect's office, psychologist's office, and so on. Things have changed. The upstairs have now become apartments. So one time I sent out an email about 14 years ago to my email list, which was about 1,500 people who would hear a email announcement that the next dinner from the house was happening. It was either from the house or at the house. This time it was from the house, going out to Johnny's Gone Fishing. Was called Johnny's Sporting Goods.
I remember.
But now it's called something else.
It's called Present Day on Main.
Present Day on Main. So we were going to serve the food there, and the phone rang, and it was the then head of the Orange County Health Department asking me if I had a permit to serve food tonight in Scarborough to the public, and I asked if I could come in on Monday, that being a Friday, if I could come in on Monday. So on Saturday, I would have gone in on Monday to ask them how I could get a permit. It was just like buying time for just 48 hours. But on Saturday at the farmer's market, I started telling everybody about this phone call. And the former owner of the former restaurant called Sandwich stepped forward and said they were moving and I could have the space.
Oh, that's how you got the building.
So that
from
was
that.
early,
how cool is that?
Early October of 2009.
Yeah.
And then March 2010, we got the key to this current space.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Because to back up a little bit, I'd heard this story before, but maybe the audience doesn't know this. Vimala started serving food just out of her house. And people would just come pick it up. Is that correct? And the line got so long in your neighborhood. Is that why you had to go to Johnny's? Is just because you had to have...
Because dear friend Brian Plaster, who was working at Johnny's at the time, asked me to bring the food. And he would provide the beverages, so it was a very symbiotic relationship. And we could draw a crowd together.
I bet.
It was huge.
It was a happening.
Yes.
A community event.
And we'd have live music.
Yeah.
And we used the kiosk that's still there
Yeah.
to serve the food from. So
the little outside kiosk. Oh, yeah.
So that's why it went out of the house. I would also take the food from the house over to the lawns of Weaver Street Market.
Sure, of course.
To serve, so to speak, sell for donations to nonprofit organizations that I wanted to support, like, now closed internationalist books, some may remember. There were several, the Women's Center, which has now become Compass Center, the People's Channel, of which I am a co-founder, which is public access television station.
I wanted to ask you about the People's Channel, too. You're making the point, you run this amazing restaurant that people love, but also do all this amazing, generous work. And you're just like a voice for, the underserved, underprivileged. You do a lot with refugees. You do all these amazing things. So it's just very impressive. I wanted to tell you that live on the air, Vimala.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just right along with my mission statement for the restaurant. Which we visited every 3 years to see, should we change anything about it? Should we revisit it? Or, just scrap something because we're not living up to it. And hasn't changed in 12 years, mind you.
Wow.
So the first couple sentences actually says we aim to bring the community together with warmth and hospitality.
Check.
Yep. Delicious, healthy, local food.
2 checks.
So,
emphasis on delicious and healthy and local.
and community.
All of it.
It's a community gathering space.
Speaking of the space, to Deej's point, first off, it's such a neat little courtyard, but you've been there for a long time. 13 years.
12 and a half.
The barbershop's been there for quite a long time. Chapel Hill Barbershop.
Yes.
I feel like the one right beside you just seems to, it's been 4 or 5 things since I've...
It's a very small space,
Yeah,
so
it's a
that's
tough space,
not
right?
a cozy space to hang out, the
Yeah.
number of seats inside.
Yeah.
But I want to give a shout out to them. It's Saturn Eye, and
Saturn
they
Eye.
are great.
Yeah, good.
They are a small family owned business, and they make delicious sandwiches, craft drinks, they have coffee.
I hope they do well. I want that place. Every time
Absolutely.
it's something new, I pop in there and try it. And I get my hair cut at
Yeah.
Chapel Hill Barbershop. Although the dad retired, I think. It was a father-son.
And it's Drew, the young man.
Yeah. Did the dad retire? Or
Yes, he has retired. And Franklin Street Yoga is there.
Dr. J, my wife, that's where she does her yoga, and that's been there for a long time. So it's a great little plaza.
Yeah.
The restaurant you just named, your neighbor, what are they called again?
Saturn Eye.
Saturn Eye. Check them out, folks. Saturn Eye. Above it.
Yes.
When my daughter was little, we would just go up there and run around and play around. That seems like such a neat space for like a party or a wedding reception.
Yeah, we've done receptions there.
I was going to ask you, do they ever do anything up there?
Yes, they just closed it off recently because they need to reinforce the floors.
Yeah, I noticed the floors. Do you know the space I'm talking about? You go up these windy
haven't been there in a
stairs,
while.
and it's just this beautiful, really cool patio overlooking Vimala's, overlooking the courtyard. It's really neat. So you're saying they do occasionally do stuff there. Okay.
We used to go up there to get aerial shots of the courtyard.
I bet. Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm going to spend the whole night complimenting Vimala's because I love it so much. I wanted to get into the People's Channel, which you were one of the founders of in 1995. Tell us about it.
The People's Channel is the area's only nonprofit-run community access television.
Is it still active?
It is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
And so I went to Canada in 1989, soon after I got my master's degree in educational media technology, which specialized in television production.
From where?
From NC Central University. So
Great school.
After I finished my degree, we had some family circumstances, so we had to move to Canada.
Okay.
And I did community access there. And when I came back, I started inquiring what community access facilities do we have for people to make television, and there wasn't adequate facilities.
Yeah.
So there were certain things that FCC has regulated. You must have restrooms, and it should be on the bus line so people can access to come in. It was also called access television for a reason. So this was located behind the Village Printing Company, and it was part of Time Warner, the company that actually ran cable at that time. So a few of us, Dr. Bob Gwyn, who has passed away, and Don Yonavjak, who has also passed away, and Bob Cosgrove, who is now in Greensboro, and myself, and Eva Metzger is doing well over at Carol Woods. All of us got together and started talking about starting a nonprofit organization, and we named it the People's Channel. And that's how community access came about. And we had to go before the town council and ask them for the permission. Triangle J was competing right along with us, and we actually won the rights to have it. And we did a great job, and we're still thriving. So.
But it's a TV channel?
Yes, it is.
Can anybody who wants to put a TV... How do you go about finding programs to go on the channel?
Well, some programs, I cannot speak to it now because I don't watch any television.
Yeah.
Even when I made TV, I didn't have the time to sit down.
You don't have time to watch TV.
No.
That restaurant probably takes 60 hours a week at least.
Yeah. But even 12 years ago.
Plus catering,
I have disdain
plus
for
weddings.
network television. So,
sure.
Yes, it is. So people submit shows that they have made.
Yeah.
So there is no censorship. But of course, there are guidelines like no libel, profanity.
If we approached the People's Channel and said, we have this radio show, we want to turn this into a TV show, is that,
Oh, that's been done before.
That's a possibility?
Tana Hartman comes to mind.
She's still at WCON?
Yes, and then she would have the same show, broadcast over there.
Yeah.
If this was videotaped, then it would go on TV.
I got to get this guy on TV. Vimala.
Oh, yes. DJ is all about
DJ needs
television.
to be on TV.
Yes.
DJ needs to
It's
be
a matter
on
of
TV.
time.
Let's hit him with a little song.
Yeah.
Does that sound good, Deej?
Do it.
Project Mastana. Here we
Wow.
go. Yonavjak Dostana from right here in Scarborough.
Very cool.
And that was the voice of Surbi Shah, actually an environmental scientist,
Oh,
but also
fantastic.
an amazing vocalist and a fantastic mother of a teenager.
Very
nice.
talented folks. Thank you for bringing that on. Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of running the restaurant, because at the end of the day, again, I know you support a lot of causes, important causes, but at the end of the day, you have to run, at the beginning of the day, you have to run a business. We know you have access to the Weaver Street Market, but let's just start with ingredients. Like, what's the hardest thing that you have to do that we wouldn't realize as customers?
Getting ingredients and cooking was something I was really good at because I did so much of it. And even though I don't have formal culinary school education, I learned from here, there, and everywhere. My parents, friends, and this Canadian friend of mine from Bangladesh who taught me how to make that wonderful dal we talked about. So
People love that doll.
what I didn't know that a business, especially a restaurant, involved was that we needed licenses for beer and wine. Beer and wine license is so hard to get that we decided not to be in the cocktail business because that is even harder. My admiration goes to all the cocktail bars in town.
And you wonder why a cocktail's $12. You figure out why
Exactly.
when you run a business.
Absolutely.
Because there's ABC,
Absolutely.
there's licensing,
Absolutely. Yep.
there's...
And the way the bottles are handled, how you have to go to the local ABC store and buy it.
And then you got to worry about a kid coming in there potentially and buying
Yes.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, we were tested once by someone who came in and pretended to be of the right age, and we refused to sell them, so that's only once.
Only once in 13 years? That's surprising.
Yes, but that's only because we don't have a liquor license.
Yeah.
So then the other things that I found were really hard was accounting. There's a lot of bookkeeping that I would not have found the time to do if family members who helped me start the restaurant all went and took those small business administration classes that were available.
Wow.
And then compliance for health and safety. I didn't come in knowing everything. It was so hard for me. I didn't understand some of the rules, and I kept asking our inspectors, kept taking the Serve Safe classes to be certified.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot to the extent where I could turn around and teach the Serve Safe class now.
You
But
go
that's-
through all that, the accounting, the business side of it, the ordering, the materials, all that. You finally feel like you figured it out, and then the pandemic comes along.
Oh, yes.
And you had, I watched your video this morning about, and from the outsider's perspective, it seems like you handled it as well as could be. We ordered from you many times.
Yeah.
Rush was out there in the street, like
Yeah,
running around
yeah,
serving
yeah,
food and this
yeah,
and that.
yeah.
Do you ever feel like, okay, can you still be surprised?
Oh,
today?
I don't let my guard down at all. So, an example, yesterday, there was forecast of rain and thunderstorm, and I was sitting on the porch with a dear friend who's a potter, Sarah Howe, to be specific. And
Sarah Howe?
Sarah Howe from Durham.
She's a big fan of our show. Hello, Sarah Howe. I'm just kidding.
who sells at the Durham Farmers Market every Saturday.
Okay.
And she held a trunk show at Curry Blossom. So she and I were visiting. We also had another friend sitting beside us. And a guy was sitting next to us. He was having a drink. And I asked him if he had a takeout. And I wasn't wearing an apron. There's no telling who I am.
Right.
And then he said, "Oh, I trust them. I've only been here a few minutes." And I said, "No, let me go check." And he said, "Oh, I really trust them." And I said, "But I don't." I really don't mean I don't trust the people in the kitchen, or I would not be here on a Friday night
Right.
sitting in a chair in front of a microphone. But the thing is,
Thank you for doing that.
just have to not let your guard down because the public health is on your shoulders.
Yeah.
You have to be on your toes to make sure the food is sharp
Yes.
and delicious
Yeah.
and safe
Yep.
and liked. Not everyone will like everything all the time, so which also means giving people proper advice and guiding them through the menu.
That's
so there's
right.
a lot to do.
It's
So we
not
went from a counter service restaurant to when we reopened after 2.5 years of being in the pandemic mode.
Delivery only, pretty much.
Yes,
Or
and
pick up outside.
sometimes cold food, no contact and all that. When we opened the dining room, we had a hand wash sink in the hallway.
Oh, wow.
And I point people to that and would emphasize and cannot emphasize enough how important warm water, soap are for public health. You know, you wash your hands and then you just break the cycle of spreading the disease.
Be safe,
And
Deej.
wash your hands.
Running a business in a restaurant sounds pretty stressful. You got to do a lot of paperwork, got to deal with a lot of red tape, work long hours. What keeps you going? What makes it all worth it for
Well,
you?
knowing that you're making a difference in the restaurant industry. So the industry is not set up for alternative practices like paying a living wage.
Not at all.
So there's that. You know, I can go on and on about why it is so important to pay a living wage in the restaurant industry in particular, because I saw something on Facebook that some organization or business has been certified or recertified by Orange County Living Wage. We were paying a living wage before there was Orange County Living Wage.
Yeah.
I was part of the group of restaurant owners who got together to start the organization that we named RAISE, which stands for Restaurants Advancing Industry Standards in Employment. So it's so important for employers to stand behind respecting and honoring and valuing their employees.
And you were ahead of that curve. Like you said, it's getting some recognition in maybe in the last year or two, but you've been talking about rise in living wage for years. That's
so
impressive.
that's how we prioritize worker justice.
That's what fires you up every day.
And environmental justice. It matters to me that we care about the earth, the only planet we know of.
It's the only one we got, Deej.
Yes.
For now.
Yes.
Until we're on Mars, is that what you're saying?
And to be sustainable at every level, not as a marketing lure, but as a principled practice.
I love it. The model that you had, even in the early days, you come in there, reasonably priced, healthy local food, but you know what? I can put the dishes in the dish tray. I can seat myself. Like I loved what you were doing. The pandemic taught a lot of restaurants how you can serve in a way, but I feel like you were doing it that way 5, 6, 7 years ago. You were ahead of the curve on a lot of things, I think.
You know, so the model of running a restaurant, I had never even worked in a restaurant but for maybe a month.
Yeah.
So in my whole life.
Yeah.
So I didn't know a lot about restaurants. So it helped us to have a place that was a successful restaurant. So my appreciation for Hitch and Janet Elbetri, who owned and operated Sandwich in the space where we are now.
Yeah.
And there was also 3 Cups. Lex Alexander started 3 Cups as a kind of a cohesive business. One served beverages, 3 Cups, coffee, tea, and wine, and Sandwich had the best sandwiches.
Yeah, those are before my time. I don't remember them.
Beautiful food.
Yeah.
They are brilliant chefs. And I came on the scene and was welcomed by other chefs up and down Scarborough, Chapel Hill.
That meant a lot to you.
That meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And that kind of respect, you know, for me to get it as I arrived, saying welcome, you know, and calling me chef.
Yeah.
You know, long ago, men were called chefs and women were cooks. And I am following in the path of other well-established, respected, award-winning chefs like Andrea Rosing, for example, of Lantern. And 411, they are friends. You know,
they're good. Should we call you Chef Vimala from now on?
Not if you're not in my kitchen. Yes.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's incredible. Vimala does a lot for refugees in particular. Anyone who comes to your restaurant who can't afford a meal, there was always 2 tip jars on the bar, some for the staff and then some for
everybody eats.
For whoever needs to eat, right? Exactly. And so I'd always toss a little bit into each one.
Yeah.
I admired that. And how does that go about though? How do you know?
Tipping is a whole another topic We could just have a whole show on tipping.
Well, I mean, we got half an hour. Give us your. Dig into it a little bit.
So there's tipped minimum wage, which I had no idea.
What is the minimum wage right now in Chapel Hill?
It's about $7.65 or something.
Not a living wage.
No, it's never been, and hope will be in our lifetime.
My first job out of high school, I made $2 an hour plus tip.
Yes, so that's called the tipped minimum wage, where your employer expects his or her customers, we call them guests.
Yeah.
If these are honored guests that are coming to my restaurant, why would I expect them to pay the workers who are doing all the work?
Yeah.
Hey, this work is hard.
Yeah.
If it was easy, I would be a team of one. I had about 35 employees before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And now we have about 15 people.
Wow.
They certainly don't do that in other countries. I mean, that is that specific to United States?
Yes, it is. It started, with the Pullman trains where people would just give a little cash tip. It was never, ever meant to be instead of wages.
Right.
But it is here in some settings, and it's unfair, unjust, and unacceptable.
I agree. Deej. And Vimala's fighting it. And we're fighting it with you.
Thank you.
I would rather pay extra for the food and then just pay.
Yeah, I've considered eliminating tips altogether.
Well, but
Meaning
again, though,
we take tips, but it's an at-will thing.
But and all, like $1 or $2.
Yes.
Yeah, not 15, 20%.
Yeah,
and
people
again,
do
you're using
give.
half of it to feed people.
Yes.
That's different.
No,
Vimala.
not even half of it. So I have to be very specific.
Yeah.
Employers are not supposed to touch those tips. Tips, as a rule, which is not a very good thing to begin with, but if they exist, they belong entirely to the workers.
Right.
So the guests are giving tips for it to go toward workers.
Right.
And there are employers who actually steal the tips.
Oh, wow.
And it's heartbreaking.
That's not good.
To know that it happens.
Yeah.
And we just do the right thing because doing the right thing helps you sleep peacefully like a baby at night.
Really? Deej, you wouldn't slip your hand in the tip jar. I don't see you.
No, I had my tips stolen by like when I worked at a bar. I checked IDs, and the bartender would just take my tips.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's no good. Don't do that if you're thinking about stealing tips.
That model is
It's,
outdated and rife for
corruption,
foul play.
Minimum wage was
And
like
also,
$5 like 20 years ago.
Traditionally, tips are only shared among the front of house. Right from the beginning, we eliminated the concept of front of house, back of house.
Makes no sense.
Because of the history behind, race
Some
and class
racism.
and all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we started sharing the tips across the board evenly among all the workers.
Yeah.
And I was challenged by a junior version of National Restaurant Association, who also share an acronym with National Rifle Association.
Oh, wow.
So just saying. So the other NRA called me and asked me to stop sharing the tips across the board and to only share it with the front of house. I said, I don't have a front of house or back of house.
You just have a house.
If the people who work in the kitchen don't make the food, the servers don't have the food to serve to the guests. So we got this. And then Congress changed the law.
Nice.
Now they can, because Ray's lobbied.
Yeah.
And I've been part of the lobbying group that has gone to Capitol Hill to talk to our elected officials.
You're on the right side of that.
That's right.
What's your mix of business today?
The house does not make enough money to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So we need more people to come in.
Yeah.
But people will come. Our guests mostly constitute two different categories.
Okay.
People who see our reviews and are passing up and down I-95 or I-40 going east to west, and they stop in because they have Googled best Indian restaurant or something, or best food near me. And the other category are people who are raising their children on this food. And I have a story to tell you. When my children were very young and were taking lunch boxes to a elementary school within walking distance from here, my daughter was teased for eating chapati with vegetable inside it.
I bet,
Like a chapati roll.
Yeah.
even though what was happening behind the scenes was some of those kids were trading their peanut butter jelly sandwiches for her chapati sabji. However, I heard the story and wasn't too surprised.
Yeah.
People who are now my children's ages come to the restaurant to pick up Indian food to send to the school. Because they grew up on this food.
It's healthy and delicious.
Yes.
Yeah. Weddings, catering, etc.
They are opening back up again.
Okay.
What's so special about Vimala's catering?
Yeah.
Local fare with a global flair.
Ooh.
So
local fare with a global flair.
yes.
What a bumper sticker.
That's going to be the name of this episode, I think. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
yes. Southern food. I've lived in the South for 37 years.
That's right.
Make it pretty well.
Yeah.
Make all my sides vegan so that everyone can have access to it. And they will have their pork in their collard greens as soon as they put it on a plate and the juices from the barbecue where the pork has come from local farms and the juices run into the collards.
Oh, Deej. We need to have an event right
Delicious.
now. We're planning something right
Is
now.
Vimala still open?
Yes, it is, and will be open all day tomorrow from 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Oh,
Let's get down with
there.
Let's get down with Project Mansenta again.
Okay.
Mastana. Project Mastana. keep that going, Deej.
Yeah.
It might be one of our new favorite local bands there. Project Mastana.
New theme song.
I dig them, Vimala. I dig them a lot.
Thank you.
So some gifts for y'all. Deej, this is a hat from Commissioner Joe Hauser.
Oh, sweet.
Longtime listener of the show, my brother-in-law. He got Deej
A
you
sports
want
hat.
to describe it?
It is a red baseball cap, a trucker style with a foam front and a mesh back. It's red, and it simply says the word sports in white. So.
And for Vimala, I just started a new job. I work for a company that makes hammocks, Lawson Hammock. The number one camping hammock, by the way. But I did solar farm development, and one of the things that we cared about was what can we do with the land that doesn't have solar panels on it. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of bee harvesting. So this is honey from a solar farm.
Oh, that's lovely.
That my company developed.
I want to dedicate the next section to everyone around our community who are working to improve pollination.
Yes.
You know,
oh, my
yes,
goodness.
the birds and the bees and the butterflies all do their jobs.
Yep.
But it's such an uphill battle for people like Debbie Roos in Chatham County.
Yeah.
And I could name a lot of people who are so. For fear of leaving anybody out, pollinator gardeners and pollinator propagators, you know who you are.
We love you,
Thank you
pollinators.
so much. Yes.
To the pollinators, Deej.
Yes.
All right.
It is so important. You're right. My good friend JT Roach, he's called into the show.
Yeah.
He's an apiarist.
Yeah. So thank you for the honey.
You're welcome.
What role do music and restaurants how do they go hand in hand? How do you see them kind of melding into a single entity?
Yes.
I love hearing music at all times.
Yep, me too.
My favorite band being Project Mastana.
Of course. Our new favorite band.
Yes, your new
And
favorite.
future guest on the Chris or Jenny show.
Here's hoping.
I hope so.
Yeah, you are.
Surbi and
Yes.
Vasu, if you're listening, and Dave Shore and Jeff Brown.
We'll get him on here.
Yes.
We're good at getting guests.
Yes. So I just wanted to say we play some music, but we prefer live music.
Yeah.
Right.
Our Lamont Lilly, who has now moved from Durham to Chapel Hill and lives in the north side. He works at Curry Blossom. He is a published author and a syndicated columnist. He plays music, and not just jazz music that plays in most restaurants, but he'll also play some Indian instrumental music. So we have David DiGiuseppe on standby.
Yeah.
Red Nucleus, one of the lead musicians, is also my longtime friend and now neighbor.
Yeah.
Michael Goy, that's who is in Red Nucleus. And we also have Southern Roots. They have faithfully played every Thursday if the weather permits for them to get to the restaurant.
Yeah, it's important.
They will play outside. And if the weather doesn't permit and they have gotten to the restaurant, they play inside in the second kitchen, which we call the bucket stage.
The bucket stage.
Very cool.
There really is not much better scenes in Carborough Chapel Hill than a comfortable night sitting outside, eating that food and listening to a band. I mean, it really is the peak.
And you can bring your dogs.
Bring your dogs. I do have a great story about my daughter. She's 9 now, but to me, this epitomizes Vimala just in a nutshell. So when she was like 3 or 4 years old, we were in there eating, and she was being okay, but you know, all 3-year-olds are a little. I don't know. She might have been 4, but she was little. Jumping around, bopping around a little bit. And Vimala, you were busy. It was probably a weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. But you just walked up, put down a bowl of vanilla ice cream, and then just left. You didn't say a word. Now, you might have communicated with my wife. I didn't see anything. What I saw was you out of the back, put a bowl of ice cream down, and just left. And to this day, that's like one of the favorite stories of the Amesbury house. Oh. And I mean, you've probably done it a million times. You probably don't remember. This is 6 or 7 years ago.
You just opened up a new topic.
And it meant a lot to us. I want you to know.
Well, okay, so 2 new topics.
Yeah.
One is how it's absolutely delightful to me. This feeds me and keeps me going to watch families raise their children on this food, because we are also trying to change the standards of
That's right.
food that's not fit for human consumption in the name of let's make some quick bucks.
Oh my
And
goodness.
restaurant
Yes.
food. Some restaurants. None of my friends own such restaurants. And the second thing is, we are now serving artisan ice cream made by Shafna Shamsuddin. Her company is called Elaka Treats.
Elaka Treats.
How do you spell that?
Elaka,
Okay, go look
which
it up.
is the Malayalam word for cardamom.
Oh, I love it.
I looked at the name. She was at the Chapel Hill Farmers Market, and I walked right up to her and I said, "What part of Kerala are you from?"
I love it.
Yes.
That's yet another incredible thing that you're doing is bringing her in. I mean, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, we have all this space. So we started at the sandwich space and then expanded.
Yeah.
And we have a second kitchen. We call it a baking kitchen, but we've used that second kitchen as a business incubation kitchen.
Yeah.
And we've had folks who are starting out in food business use that kitchen and then go off and start storefronts like Ta Contenta, which is now across the border from Orange County in Chatham County.
I know I know them. I had them at an event.
Yes.
Nora is a wonderful lady.
So Vimala's Curry Blossom Cafe. It's on Franklin and Roberson Street. Come on out. It's delicious. It's an experience. Where can we find you online?
Curryblossom.com.
Okay.
Just curryblossom.com.
It's a made-up word.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you picked the name.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure curries were blossoms.
Well, curry leaf plants, which grow up into trees, will blossom into their 10th or 12th year of life.
Okay.
And I just remembered I needed to come up with an email address when we could have more than 8 digits for email. And stumbled upon cherry blossom as my father's favorite shoe polish, because that was my first job, being a shoe shine. And so curry blossom just popped in my head. And I was like, it's good.
Curryblossom.com. Anything else you want to promote just while you're here? I mean, I think we did a good job of it any big events coming up?
Well, this is big Thanksgiving to this community. Every day I'm grateful that the community showed up for me when we were raising microloans and funds to launch the restaurant. And throughout the years, and especially during the pandemic, folks have showed up for me. So tell me when I can do something for you.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you right now, as a member of the community, you do as much for us as we do for you. I mean, it really is. I know I've been gushing all night, but it's a beloved place for me personally, for my family, and for this whole community. So thank you, Chef Vimala.
Thank you.
Deej, we do got to run. Anything else on your mind?
No.
The Blind Tigers are playing at Ruby's when, Deej?
Yeah, come see my band, Blind Tigers. We're playing at Ruby's on 5 Points, downtown Durham on Saturday, January 28th. Starts at 9.
Anything else, brother?
No, Vimala, it was a pleasure.
Today's Friday the 13th.
It is.
And no Tucklebucket call.
Not yet.
That's
No.
a little surprising.
I think his coffin's nailed shut.
Vimala, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night,
My pleasure.
everybody.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
मचा ले धूम 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 मचा ले of the night. Doom again, I see the shadows dancing in the pale moonlight. Doom again, I feel your heartbeat pumping. Now the time is right. So go walk out the